outline is on Blackboard. Not the right one. Well, it looks like this. I have to bring up Blackboard. No, how does it keep bringing up the other screen? I don't know, it says Google, but there we go. Can you see the federal minimum wage?
Yeah.
Okay. When you before you go to come in and take the test, you can have this up, have this link up, so you can click on it and at the top, CPI inflation calculator. So have those links there, so then when you're taking the test, you can just go right to them. And then the test will be on Blackboard under week 5, exam 1. Right now it has the link to go into the exam. That's the WebEx link. It's the same exact link as you're in right now. So if you want to go on like you do now, it's the exact same link. I just put it here in case students went under exam. Your exam will be here also. Right now it's not there. And then here's your outline. So the exam is Friday, February 12th, during our class time. If you want to start it early, you can come into my 9 a.m. class and start it early. If you need more time, just keep going. Our class is technically over at 10:50, but if you need more time, it's fine. Just keep going. So the exam will also be here. Oh, it must have closed. I'm sorry, somehow some of my things are going up on my other monitor, and I lost you for a minute. Okay, so this is what the outline looks like. Now you do want to make sure there's probably 13 questions on the exam. Um, I have to go through the exam and make sure what I want. But I usually have about 13 questions on a 15-minute exam. Unless there's a lot of really short ones, then it might be a little bit longer, but okay, so for the guidelines, the exam is Friday during your normal time, but if you want to come on at 9, you can. If you're going to miss the exam, it must be a verified excuse, and I must be notified by before the exam. So before the exam, we have to set up a day when you're going to take the exam. I have, I think, 3 people who are taking this completely online because they work during the day, and so those people will have to get with me. But for a verified excuse, it's on the syllabus. The exam is on WebEx, the same link as we use in class. So you'll get on like this. and then I will get on WebEx before opening the exam. I will give you the password, and then you can open up the exam from Blackboard. You don't need to print the exam. You can work it out on lined paper. Just number 1, work it out, number 2, and so on. You must show all of your work. And then remember, if it's a story problem, to write it in a complete sentence. If it is not a story problem, for instance, number 8, 9 times 10 to the 14th divided by 3 times 10 to the 6th. This isn't a story problem. Just state which one, standard notation, and put the answer, scientific notation, put the answer. It would not need a sentence. Same thing here. The number of feet in 10 miles, you just have to convert it and put standard and scientific. You do not need sentences. But these are story problems, they need a sentence. So show all your work and put sentences where needed. When you're done, you post the exam before you sign off of WebEx. So when you're done, you could put a little note that you needed to grab your phone or something like that. But you can take pictures of it and post it, email it to yourself and post it on Blackboard. You can scan it and post it onto Blackboard. However you post all your other assignments, it will be the same. Any questions on that? So it is not like your quiz where you're typing in the answers. You work it all out on paper as if you would do in class, and then you send it into Blackboard.
Are we allowed to use our notes?
Yes.
Okay. And
yeah, normally I would say no, but I will make the test a little bit harder, and then you can use your notes, you can use your calculator, you can use the internet, because those are things that are hard for me to tell if you're cheating. It's a little easier to tell if someone's in the room, if you're talking to somebody, if you have another monitor. Those things are a little easier for me to see. But I don't necessarily have controls. So I will say open notes. Internet was already open because there are questions you will have to use the internet for. Kind of like if you think of some of your assignments, how far the moon was, you picked a planet, how far the planet was. That's not something you would memorize.
yeah. And also, how do we know which ones that we need sentences for? Like, are the questions going to say?
Most of them you will be a story problem, so I would say 90% of the problems you have to write a sentence. But if it's just showing you a calculation, like number 8 does, then you would not.
Okay,
So
thank
if it's any kind of a sentence, if you drive 6 years of your life and you have 30 miles per day, that's a sentence. You'd have to have a sentence.
Okay, thank you.
There will not be very many where you would not have.
How many questions will be on the exam?
Probably 13. There's usually 10 to 13 problems. I don't know why I always end up with 13. Think of it as a lucky number. If it's lucky, then it can't be bad. Any other questions so far? Okay, so before you get off of WebEx, you post your exam. This is all timed. I can see what time you put your exam in. I can see what time you got off of WebEx. So if you got off at WebEx we start at 10:30, and then didn't post your exam till 11:30, then I know you were cheating. Give 3-4 minutes because of the internet, maybe. But if you stay on until it goes through, then you don't have to worry about that. So post it first and then sign off. But Luckily, technology, it tells me what time you got on, what time you got off, what time it was posted, what time you opened it. So if I think you're cheating, I'm going to look that stuff up. Any questions on that? Oh, also, everybody's picture needs to be on. Usually there's one or two people in the whole class, but you have to have your camera on. And if your camera doesn't work, then you need to get on your phone or an iPad or go on campus. You have to have your camera on. Any questions on that? I had a student last semester, for some reason, WebEx and opening tests, they didn't work together for some reason. And so he FaceTimed me on his phone, and he sat his phone there, and I watched him take the test. So we will do whatever we have to. But what you could do is while you're on WebEx right now, like during either today or Wednesday, open up something. If you can open up one of the homework assignments while you're on, then you're not going to have a problem. And so that's one way you can double check. But on that day, if you have trouble getting on, take your time, go back in, send me a text and let me know you're getting on. Because things always happen when you don't want them to happen. So just chill, we'll work it out. Any questions?
Could we like print the test out?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
If you want to print the test, you can. I also put the test up there on a Word document, and then it's also pictures, because sometimes I didn't use any, like a regular fraction here. Sometimes the formulas in my Word might not work with your Word. And so I put the pictures there in case something looks like it's missing. You could double check with the pictures. There's not too much on this test, but like if I made this a fraction bar, some students it won't show up because of my formula in my Word. If you're using YSUs, it doesn't have as much technology as some of the other ones.
Where is the outline on Blackboard? I'm just getting on. Sorry if I'm asking a repeated question.
It's right under exam 1. So if you go under week 5, exam 1, the link for this is there.
Okay, thank you. Also, are we allowed to use any notes?
Yes, you can use your notes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. There are no other assignments due this week. So if you are behind on anything, a few people did not do some stuff from the first week. I think it's just because they added late, but you can still do that. So go on under grades, anything that's missing. If you've turned it in and maybe it was an email and I missed it, let me know. But if you haven't done it, get it done. So use this week to study and get anything that's not done. For turning in things late, I usually start that after the exam. So everything that's on exam 1, after exam 1, it's late. So then I'll start taking points off. I don't start taking points off before that. You just lose attendance points. And then all of the material for the second exam, that will be due before or by the second exam. If it's late, you lose attendance points, but you don't lose points until after the exam that it's on. Any questions on that? So look under your grades, anything that has zeros. Check if you turned it in. If you did, let me know. Sometimes when you go to turn something in, if you don't hit submit, it just sits there. But usually I can tell that, and I just text you and let you know you need to hit submit. So I don't think there's any of those. Any questions on that? Okay, so this week, if you're all caught up, there's no homework, no. The only thing with the discussion board, if you didn't, like Sunday's discussion board, you need to respond to those. So if you haven't responded to them, that's really the only thing you'd have to do this week besides study. Any questions? So you want to study these problems, which are good, like the basic foundation problems, and then all the material that I graded over chapters 1 through 4. Homework, labs. Quizzes would probably be similar to these. You can use the internet, you can use your notes, have the inflation calculator and the history minimum wage tabs open. Kind of like I showed you on mine, I had those two open. You'll have to be able to convert from decimals, percents to fractions. Is there any questions on that? Good problem. Sorry, why that's wrong word. What percent of 200 is 80? Write it as a percent and fraction.
So this is just some stuff to help us.
Yeah, you'll definitely see a problem where you have to solve it, and then you'll have to put it in all three forms. So these would be review problems. A lot of it's the basic part, so maybe the problem will be a little bit more involved, but some of them will be basic. And remember, of means multiply and is means equals. So what percent, or let percent be R for a rate. Of means multiply, so 200R equals 80. And then you would solve it. So you want to show your work. Set up the equation. Now if you can divide it and just put R equals, that's fine. Because you can use a calculator. But the reason we're dividing is because it's 200 times R. You divide to get R by itself. So 0.4 would be the decimal. And this is one where you can just list each answer. You would not have to put a sentence. Percent. I would probably do the percent next. To make it a percent, you multiply your decimal by 100. And then to make a fraction, this is the 10th position, so you could go 4/10. Or you take your percent and put it over 100. So 400% is 40. 40 over 100. Cancel the zeros gives us 4/10. Divide by 2, because 2 goes into both of them. The fraction would be 2/5. So there'll be definitely one where you solve it and then I have you write it in all three forms. That is correct. There's no homework and no group assignment. Instead of the group assignment on Friday is your exam.
So do you want it written as like the simplest fraction, or do you want it to be like 4/10 because that shows exactly what decimal, like out of 100?
It should be reduced. If I don't specify, I would take any one of the three, but I would probably put fraction in reduced form. But if it doesn't say in reduced form, any one of the three would be fine. Any questions on that part? Okay, the next one says standard form and scientific notation. But that's good at number 6, so we'll do that on number 6. So you do need to be able to write it in both forms. And with these problems right here, we will do both forms. And then explaining rounding, we'll do that with this one. But there will be a problem so that even though you are using your calculator, you'll have to explain to me how you could do it rounding. And I'll show that in, I forget which one of these here. I think it was this one. And number 7. So 4 and 5 we'll do in these next few. Show if 3 billion per hour is consistent to 45 million per minute. Okay. We have 3 billion per hour. We want to know if that's consistent with 45 million per minute. Well, notice this is hours, this is minutes. You can't compare them until your units are the same. So we need to convert either this one to minutes or this one to hours. I probably would go this one to minutes. Not sure why, but you can go either. I like making my big number smaller to look at. But if we went this way, 3 billion, thousand, million, billion, 9 zeros is 1 hour. Numerically, we're fine. We just need to convert from hours to minutes. And we know 1 hour is 60 minutes. So do we put hours or minutes on the top?
Hours go on the top.
So if you weren't sure whether to multiply or divide by the 60 by setting up the proportion, you can see because we need hours on top, so we need to divide by the 60. You can cancel 1 0, and we know that 30 divided by 6 is 5, and then that leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros. Now you could have just used your calculator. So we get 1,000 million, 50 million per minute. So 3 billion in an hour is 50 million per minute. Any questions on getting the 50 million? So now you need to say if that's consistent with 45 million per minute. It depends on how you look at it. It's 5 million different. If we're talking about money, that's a lot. But if I round this 4, this would be 50. So rounding, they are the same. So 45 million is approximately 50 million per minute when you round. So when you write your paragraph, you could go either way and neither one is wrong, as long as you explain yourself properly. If you find the absolute change by subtracting them and say that 50 million off is too much, I mean, $50 million is a lot of money. If it were money, you don't know what it is. But 5 million is a lot. So you could go by absolute change. Or you could just say rounding 45 million, you get 50 million. So they are consistent. They're approximately the same. Any questions on that?
When you were dividing the 3 billion by the 60, when you cross the zeros off, how did you know to like kind of divide it like 30 by 6 or something?
Okay. So first of all, when you have ending zeros and you're dividing, you can cancel them. So I could cancel 1 0. It's kind of like dividing top and bottom by 10. It would get rid of a 0. And then I knew 60 went into 30, so I took 30 divided by 6 and got 5, and then I had 7 zeros left over.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you could just plug it in your calculator, but if you were doing it without one, you would cancel your 0, and then 6 doesn't go into 3, but it goes into 30. 30 divided by 6 gave me the 5, and then I had the 7 zeros left. Any questions on that? If you drive 60 years of your life and you drive for 30 miles per day, how many miles will you drive in a lifetime? I like ones where you're converting things you're not used to, like you're comfortable with inches to feet to yards, minutes, seconds, hours, but this one's actually going, we have years, we have days, and we have miles. Days and mile conversion is not one you use a lot. And so using proportions helps. So we're driving 60 years of our life. So 60 years in a lifetime. We want to find out how many miles in a lifetime. So if we start with 60 years in one life, and we need miles per lifetime. That's what we're trying to get at the end. Well, we have the lifetime part. We need to convert years to miles. So see what you have and what you need to get to. We have the lifetime. We need to get years to miles. Well, I know nothing about years and miles. But if I go to what else is given, I drive 30 miles per day. Well, there we go. I know years to days, and then I can go days to miles. So you have to see what you need and then what you're given to get there. So I need days. First, I have to convert years to days and then days to miles. I know 1 year is 365 days. I put year on the bottom so they would cancel. And then I know I drive 30 miles per day. So in one day, put it on the bottom so it cancels, I go 30 miles. And then if we find the exact value, $657,000. So there will be a problem where I'll have you find the exact value, but then I'll also have you show how you could solve it by rounding. There's a couple ways you could go with it. One way, we can keep the 60. And then I could round 365 to 400. And leave the 30. So because 30 and 60 had zeros, I left them for right now. And then I changed the 365 to 400 because I could round to the hundreds, it would be 400. You would just explain that, round 365 to 400. And then if we multiply the first two, 6 times 4 is 24, and we add the 3 zeros. Now maybe I don't know 24 times 3. So I could make this 25 because I know 25 is a quarter and 3/4 is 75. So there's a lot of different ways you can think about the rounding and how you could do it without using a calculator. And you need to show it. So what I would do if I went this way, I would round this 24 to a 25. Because then I know 3/4 is 75. And then I'd add my 4 zeros. So rounding, I'd get one way of rounding, I get 750,000.
So that's miles then, right?
750,000.
Okay.
And it's one way we could have rounded. Another way we could have rounded, multiply, because multiplication you can multiply in any order. So I can multiply these two first. Multiply 6 times 30. 6 times 3 is 18 with 2 zeros. So I can multiply these two. Then I sure don't want to multiply that in my head, so I would round both of these. 18 would be 2,000, 365 would be 400, and then 4 times 2 is 8 with 5 zeros. So it's another way you can get it. This is the exact value, and then depending on how you round it, you could have different values. And you only have to show one way.
Are we gonna go through the outline at some point this week?
This is from the outline.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's number 7. Is there any questions on that? Okay, so there's definitely one where you give the exact value and then you show rounding and explain it. And then explaining, you could just put multiply 60 times 30. Round both numbers. Multiply.
Will we have to write a paragraph for that problem explaining everything we did then?
No. As long as you show each step, like multiply 60 times 30, round both numbers, that's fine. So you show your exact value and your estimate. You wouldn't have to write a sentence on this. Any questions on that? So that was a number 7. Eight's another one where you wouldn't have to write. Normally what I do on the test, like this one, I would have scientific notation, standard notation, and notice fill in the blank. That kind of tells you you don't need a sentence. Now, if you're not printing the test, that's fine. Just put scientific notation in your answer, standard in your answer. But that's letting you know that you're just filling in the blank. So I will make sure I do that. That way you know if you're just filling in the blank, you don't need sentences. Now this one has the division sign, so we're dividing them. When you're dividing in scientific notation, you divide your numbers. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then these two are both the same base. They're both 10. When you're dividing, what do you do with your exponents? Anyone?
Don't you subtract them?
Mm-hmm. You subtract them. Top minus bottom. So it's 3 times 10 to the 8th. And that would be your scientific notation. Standard, we would rewrite this. This 8 is positive, so this is going to move from the decimal to the right 8 to make the number bigger. 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. 300 million. Any questions on that? Let's try a multiplication one. 2.1 times 10 to the 4 times 3 times 10 to the negative 6. So this one we want to multiply and then write the scientific notation and the standard form. So when you're multiplying, again, you multiply your numbers in front. And then when we have the same base and we're multiplying, what do we do with the exponent?
We add them?
Mm-hmm. So 2.1 times 3 is 6.3 times 10, and then 4 plus a negative 6. The scientific notation would be 6.3 times 10 to the negative 2. Standard, this number needs to get smaller because it's negative, so the decimal is going to go to the left. It'll be 0.063. And then in front of your decimal, you could, but you do not have to put a 0. So this 0 does not have to be there. Any questions on that? The number of feet in 10 miles. Answer in standard and scientific notation. So this is another one where I would put standard, scientific, and put a line. The number of feet in 10 miles. So we have 10 miles and we're converting to feet. Now, of course, there will not be one this simple because you could just Google it. This one was more for practice with standard and scientific notation. But you should have memorized that there are 5,280 feet is 1 mile. The large number sheet that you had the first week of class, I think it was the first day of class actually, you could have that out if you want. Those are the most common ones, but I still want to see your work. 1 mile is 5,280. We put miles in the bottom so it would cancel, and then we multiply. And 10 times this just adds a 0. So this would be standard form, 52,800 feet. And then scientific notation, you need to first put a number or put a point so that it's between 1 and 10. If I put it here, 0.5 is not between 1 and 10. If I put it here, I have 5.2. That's between 1 and 10. The only spot that will work. If we move it here, we have 52. So it has to be between 1 and 10. And not including 10. We have 5.28 times 10. So first find your decimal. Then see how many places you need to move to get to that decimal. Our decimal is here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to move 4. Then you have to decide if it's positive or negative. So I moved over 4. This number needs to get bigger, so it needs to be positive. You can either remember when you move to the left, it's positive, or this number has to get bigger, so it's positive. And that would be your scientific notation. Any questions on that? Any questions? Number 10. 12 cans of soda are in a case. You buy 5 cases, how many cans do you have? This is a problem that came from the book. If you know to just multiply them, then put 12 times 5 equals 60. If you're unsure, we want to know how many cans in a case. We know 12 cans to 1 case. We have 5 cases. We multiply because we want cases to cancel. 12 times 5, 60 cans. So there's 60 cans in 5 cases. Any questions on that part? If 5 cases cost $18, find the price per can. Again, you could set it up like proportion, or you could say if 5 cases cost 18, then I know 5 cases is 60 cans, so 60 cans cost 18, and then find price per can. If you use a proportion, we want price per can, so we're dividing prices on top. 18 is 5 cases. And we know 5 cases is 60 cans. And this is dollars. So if you're going to do it with proportions, you go 18 over 5 cases, because that was given. And then we found here 5 cases is 60 cans. My cases cancel and my 5s cancel. So then I have 18 over 60, which is 0.3. Costs 30 cents per. This was in dollars. I changed it to cents because it's easier to understand. So it costs 30 cents per can. Any questions on that? Okay. Number 11. And there'll definitely be one where you're converting money. In the wizarding world, $7 is equivalent to 1 galleon. Joe found a game there for 10 galleons. What does it cost in dollars? We want to find dollars. $7 is 1 gallon. We want 10 galleons. That's got to go on top because we want galleons to cancel. 7 times 10 is $70. The game that costs 10 gallons is $70. Any questions on that one?
Will these questions on the test be formatted the same way as the ones on the study guide?
They will be similar, but they will also be similar to the homework assignments. You have to study those also. These are more of the basics with the story problems. The story problems are a little harder. The homework, the chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4 homework. And whatever money amount, the transferring thing will not be galleons. It will be something different. Any questions on that? Number 12. A car travels at 60 miles per hour and needs to drive 30 miles. That's 300 miles, sorry. How long will it take to get there? So you want to look at what's given and what you're looking for. We have 60 miles per hour. We need to go 300 miles, and we want to know how long it needs to get there. Rate, time, distance. So one formula that you do want to make sure you know or have written down is rate times time is distance. And if you want a formula sheet, that's fine. There's not too many formulas. Rate times time is distance. If you want to write something for scientific notation, I don't think of any other ones right now.
So would 60 miles per hour be the rate?
Yeah. So when you're going miles per hour, some kind of rate where there's two different measurements together, that's your rate. So it would be 60 because it's miles per hour. So that would be 60. We're looking for time, that's our T. And distance is how far we're going, 300 miles. So by setting the formula up, it makes it easier to solve. You also want to make sure your units are the same. This was miles per hour. This is miles. So our answer, since this is miles per hour, will be hours. This is multiplied, so we divide. And we get T equals 5. So it'll take 5 hours to drive 300 miles. Any questions on that? Number 13. 60% of Calc 2 students, or 144 students, failed last semester. How many students took Calc 2 last semester? So 60% of Calc 2 students, or 144 students, failed. So the 60% is the 144. We want 60% of the total, which is what we're looking for. 60% of means multiply times the number of Calc 2 students is 144. So 60% of the total students is 144. So it's not always written in that nice, even order. And remember, your percent gets written as a decimal when you plug it into an equation. Any questions on that part?
So all you do is just make the percent a decimal, and then that's it.
Well, then we have to solve it. Since we're multiplying, what should we do? Divide. So since we're multiplying, I use C for my number. You could have used any variable. We're dividing, so we can get C by itself. Two hundred and 40 students took Calc 2 class.
Can you explain why you set it up that way again?
It was 60% of the total number of students gave us 144. So you want to read the whole question because this one's not, it doesn't have the is in there. It doesn't have, well, it does have an of. 60% of the Calc 2 students, or 144. The or is like an is. So it was equal. 60% of the Calc 2 students is 144 students that failed. So you had to read a little bit more into it to know the exact setup, but I knew it was 60% of the total because it said 60% failed. So it'd be 60% of the total gave me the amount that failed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that one? Now this one was from the homework. Um, 46,795 runners finished the 2011 New York Marathon. Since 1981 had 13,203 finishers. What was the percent increase? So they want the percentage it increased by. That's relative percent change. Oh, I guess these would be formulas you want. Absolute change and relative percent change would be, if you wanted a formula sheet. Relative percent change is new minus the old, which was 13,203, divided by the old times 100 to make it a percent.
You said it's new minus old divided by old times 100.
If you need the percent, this one asks for the percent. Now, if it just asks for relative change, you don't need the times 100. 100 makes the percent. And I'm just going to round to a whole percent since it's so large. 254%. The percent increase in renters from 1981 to 2011 was 254%. Any questions on that? Tanisha, stop.
They're having a conversation about the Super Bowl.
Yeah, my daughter just got home. My brother gave me, and this sounds really cool, but my brother gave me some shock collars, but they don't shock, it just vibrates. And I have it on my dog so they can quiet. And it's kind of helping. Let me open the door so they'll go. Oh, be quiet. They won't walk up the steps, so that someone's got to carry them up. Sorry about that. I thought she'd get home a little later. I would have been prepared. But
It's
anyways,
okay.
so the shock collar still last. I didn't use the shock collar. It only vibrated. And when I vibrated it, she stopped for a minute. Okay. Sorry about that. Was there any questions on 14? Thank you. At least my son's class was over at 5 minutes ago. Any questions on 14? Okay, number 15. In 2006, this is another one that was on your homework. In 2006, the monthly rent became $13.55, a 3% increase from 2005. What's the rent in 2005? So we're looking for the rent in 2005. We know in 2006, rent was $13.55, an increase of 3.6%.
Can anybody else see her?
Say that again.
Oh, I couldn't hear you at all. Like,
Oh, okay.
everything was
That's
gone.
okay. So In 2006, the rent was $13.55, an increase of 3.6% of the rent we don't know. So a 3.6% of this rent gave us this. We want to know what this one is. So instead of you can use the 1 plus trick, but instead of finding the answer, we're looking for what the value was before. When we have that 1 plus trick, this would be the old rent, and this would equal the new rent. So we're given this value, we're looking for this one. This is a case where the 1 plus trick makes it easier. If you just use the percent, it's a lot harder problem, especially if you're not strong in algebra. So we could use this. It's the old rent, and then it's an increase of 3%, written as a decimal. We use R for the old rent, and the new rent we know is $13.55. You want to think of what material or information you have. In this case, we didn't have the old value. We had the increased value. And it was the total, not a part of it. So you had to use 1 plus. Any questions on setting that up? Can everyone hear me? I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I don't think my mic is down.
I hear you.
Okay. Oh, maybe it is a little. Okay. So we're looking for R. You can add this together first. 1.036 R equals to 13.55. We're solving for R. How do we get rid of this decimal? Since we're multiplying, we divide it. This was rent. Where's the number 15. So this was the monthly rent. When it's rent, common is to round to dollars and cents. But since they were going the whole dollar, 1308 would also be okay. Either one would be fine. But don't round 1 decimal place because it doesn't make sense when you're talking about money. So you would either round 2 decimal places and go to the nearest cent, or in this case, since it's 91, you could do the whole dollar. Unless it specifies, then I would probably make this 1308 because this rent was also in dollars.
So we shouldn't round it to like 0.92.
You can. You can either go 1308 or 1307.92. Both of those would be a good answer. Any rounding anywhere else wouldn't make sense when you're talking about money. But both of these would be fine. The rent was 1308 in 2005. Any questions on that? So both of these answers are good, but rounding anywhere else wouldn't make sense. Any questions on that? And this was one from the homework. But you'll definitely have something like this. Any questions? A $500 game system is on sale 30% off. What's the sale price? There's two ways you can do it. We're not worried about what the sale price is. I mean, how much off it is. We only want the sale price. So you could use the 1 minus trick. Because we don't care what 30% off of it is, we only want the sale price at the end, you can use 1 minus. Or find 30% of 500 and then subtract it off. So we could take 500 and use the 1 minus trick. 1 minus 30% is what written as a decimal?
Be 0.30.
Mm-hmm. And then 350.
Yeah.
So the sale price is $350. Now I'll show you the other way. But is there any questions that way? If you find the percent first, you would find 30% of 500. This is telling us how much off it is. So if we wanted to know how many dollars off it would be $150 off the original price. So that means we have to take the original price and then subtract the 150. Which gets us to 350. Either way, you're getting the same answer. This has an extra step in it that you really don't need. It doesn't take that much longer. So both ways are correct. It just depends on your thought process. Someone who wrote the sale price is too good to be true, which is true, especially if you're trying to find the PS5. But you can get a box for $500, an empty box. Any questions on that? Okay. .09% of Americans are high school seniors. How many Americans are high school seniors? So it's telling us the percent. of Americans. We want to find out how many of them are high school seniors. What can we do?
Could we make the percent a decimal?
Okay. 0.0109. And then what will we do with it? What should we do with it? Oh, there we go. 330 million Americans. There are approximately 330 Americans. If you didn't know, you can Google it. But we've been using as an estimate 330 million. So 1,000 million. And so if we multiply these, because 1.09% of Americans, which is 330 million, are high school seniors, that will give us the number of seniors. Now you can use the calculator. Usually the percent problems, unless it says round, you like to have exact values.
I got 3,597,000.
Mm-hmm. That's what I got. 3,597,000. Approximately 3.6 million students, or million Americans, are high school seniors. Any questions on that one? So there's definitely going to be problems where you will have to find the value if you don't already know it's American. The amount of people in the world is approximately 7.2 billion. It might have gone up some, but the book used 7.2. If you Googled it and got something a little larger, that's fine also. Any questions on that? Actor Mark Wahlberg made 68 million so far this year. This was last year. Probably 2019. The actor Mark Wahlberg made 68 million so far this year. He passed Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who made 65 million. Find the absolute change and relative change. So this is one where you'd have to find them and then write a sentence so I know you know what they both mean. How do you find absolute change?
You subtract the new and the old.
Mm-hmm. And so since Mark passed Dwayne, Dwayne's would be the old. Because he hit 65 million and then Mark passed him with 68. So Mark would be the new. New minus old. 68 minus 65 is 3 million. And these were dollars. Mark, Cass, Wayne by $3 million. It was in the entertainment section of the newspaper. Good. Any questions on that? So that would be absolute change. Relative change, notice it doesn't have percent. So relative change is new minus old divided by old. You only multiply by 100 when it asks for the percent. So it would be 68 million minus 65 million over 65 million. No, I just wrote the words to show you something. You could have put all those zeros, but there's 3 terms. If you can cancel something from all 3, you can. For instance, if they're all divisible by 2, if they all have 6 zeros. So in this case, they all have 1 million. I can cancel the million. And then just have 68 minus 65 over 65. So since it's in all 3 of them, I can cancel it. Doesn't look like so big of a increase now, or passing in. It's 500. Now, when you're explaining it, if you want to write it as a percent, that would be fine. But Mark, Cass, Wayne by a rate of 0.0 or 5%. Any questions on that one? Okay, number 19. You bought a car for $10,000 and you mark it up 4%. So we're going to sell it and we mark it up 4%. But then you decide to mark it up another 5% to the already increased price. Because at 4%, you don't think that's enough of a sale, so you raise it again. Why is it not a 9% increase? Be sure to give the cumulative increase, which means relative percent change, and the price the car is sold for in your explanation. So this shows that you cannot just add your percent. We have to take $10,000 and we have to increase it by 4%, and then take that total and increase it by 5%. That will tell us what price we're going to sell the car for. The price the car is sold for is part of one of the answers that we need. So we take our 10,000 and use our 1 plus trick, and we increase it by 4%. 4% is what is written as a decimal.
0.04.
So we take 10,000. So when she increased it by 4%, she was selling it for $2,400. But she decided instead of that, she wanted to increase that by 5%. The already increased price. So we take this and increase it by 5%.
We do the 1 plus trick again.
Yep. And I want to see your work. If you did 4% of 10,000 and added it on, that's fine, but I need to see it. Or if you use the 1 plus trick, but I want to see what you're plugging in your calculator. So this is the price she will sell car for. Now I'm just putting it here so that I remember. Because that's one of the answers I have to put in my explanation. Any questions on that part? So that's the price I sell the car for. Be sure to give the cumulative increase. Well, the cumulative increase is relative percent change. And we want to show that it's not 9%. We'll definitely do something like this on the test. Relative percent change, you'll use your old value, the original 10,000, and the new one, what you're selling it for, 10,920. So new minus old divided by old, or original. 10,920 minus 10,000 over 10,000 times 100. So new minus old divided by old times 100. So this is what they sell the car for, which was this part. And then cumulative increase is this one. So you have to explain how it's not 9% given these two. So she will sell the car for $10,920. This cumulative increase is 9.2%, which is more than the 9%. This shows you cannot just add the percent.
Could you slide the paper up, please? Thank you.
So we need to explain why it is not a 9% increase. And we stated what the sell of the car was, we stated what the increase was, and that's more than the 9%.
How did you know to find the relative percent change to get to 9.2%?
Cumulative increase is your relative percent change. And it said
Oh.
find the cumulative increase. So if you see cumulative increase, that's your relative percent change.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions on that? So these are a lot of the problems that you will see or use these ideas. Next class we'll do some with the minimum wage and the inflation calculator to make sure you understand that. So I will either make up more problems or get problems from the homework to make sure you look at and understand. But we have done all the homework ones, so you could just go back and look at those, the Wednesday videos, and that will refresh your mind on all of those. And like if you're in the 10 o'clock class, watch the 9 o'clock one. Maybe I explained something differently. But they're both up there, so you could always watch either one. They only have an hour. When you had like an hour and a half. So it's a little shorter, but I might have explained something differently. Any questions? Okay. I will have the test made by Wednesday, so I'll know exactly how many problems and what to make sure you look at. I guess that's it.
I guess I have a question.
Okay.
For number one, we just need to know the material. Just telling